the first past the post is that it is simple. Yes. The first person who gets the biggest number wins.
They call it +1.
Yeah, plus
50 plus 1 or whatever they say.
The
50 plus 1 is for the president.
Exactly.
Okay, so the parliamentary and others is just a simple majority.
A simple majority.
Exactly.
Who takes the highest number wins. And if you take the highest number, it may even be so in some countries, they have a mixed system where you have first past the post, but also a majoritarian system. And what that means is that if you have, say, about 8 people standing, the first person may get 38%.
Okay.
The next may get 24%. The next but that means nobody got 50%.
That's right.
So some will drop off, and then you have a runoff until one of them gets 50 plus 1, as we have in our presidential.
Sure.
But still, that means the 49.9 are unrepresented.
Exactly.
So we want a system where, as much as possible, because even if in my constituency, the person who is there is not in my party, I'm still represented.
Yeah.
And I believe that if we have this conversation nationally and believe that some different election systems might lead to a word you use, inclusivity.
Yes.
Then let's do that.
Right.
Because at the moment, there are many, many people who may feel unrepresented, whose politics, whose ideology, whose whatever, are not within the two main strands.
That's true.
And my fear is that as we go forward in this way, you may see fewer and fewer people voting. You may find that, you know, I mean, for example, the recent MPP primary became interesting because Mr. Kennedy, the Honorable Kennedy Japan, who perhaps even a year ago was not seen to be a front-running presidential, you know.
Exactly.
He excited many people and got them, you know, got the whole country interested in what was a partisan, you know, a party's primaries. Normally, it's interesting, but not to that extent. As far as I know, on that day, the evening, everybody was totally mindset and all that, as if it was a national election.
I did same.
We need some, and we need a political culture that creates enthusiasm. And you can see that, I think somebody else has emerged. I've seen some billboards of somebody trying to form a movement or something. It's all good. But under this system of winner takes all, of first past the post, where it is difficult for anybody to make any meaningful inroads, the two parties are squeezing out everybody else. And so if somebody comes up who appears to generate enthusiasm, especially among the young people, but in the end, at the voting point, people feel, if I vote for this one, I may let in the MPP or NDC, and that's my primary politics. It's now to squeeze out one of them.
That's right.
That's what is going to happen.
Nana, sorry, to stay a bit more on the proportional representation, as I said, it's of interest to me. I belong to a particular constituency. I vote for presidential, I vote for parliamentary. And just like you rightly said, whether we like it or not, in this dispensation, it is now two major political parties. I may not be in a position of sharing in the ideologies of any of these two political parties. How does proportional representation represent my interest?
Excellent. Excellent. That's the key. So let me explain. So under proportional representation, let us say, to put it in our actual terms now, the left, as we've known in this country, the left to the, you know, both MPP and NDC, they describe themselves as one is a social democrat and the other is property
owning
democracy.
Yes.
Or something.
So someone says center left and someone says something else.
Yeah,
like
so,
right
so
also,
slight,
whatever they call
slight,
it. Yeah.
if you will, we will give them that.
Yes.
So slight center right, center left.
Exactly.
But like socialist parties, for example, have disappeared. PNC, CPP, they've disappeared.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that there are no people, you know, propagating those ideologies. Exactly. It's only that within, when it comes to the election, because there's very little possibility. But if we have proportional representation where every vote will count the same, so that if I want to vote PNC or I want to vote XYZ, if it was a party that somebody may also come up with, look, somebody, there can be a party that is solely dedicated to fighting Galamsey.
Okay.
They don't care about any other thing. There may be a party that says our interest is to ensure that Ghanaian languages don't die. And
That's
so
true.
somebody stands up, a group of them, and then we buy into it. And so people vote for them from around the country. And at the end of the day, they may get 12%. So they'll be allocated 12% of the seats in parliament. As it is now, anybody who gets 12% nationally, it will so split that they won't win a single seat.
Right.
And therefore, the demotivation gets to a point where people don't vote for those parties at all. And so you see PNC 00 point something, CPP 00 this. But if we knew, if people knew that those parties would possibly get into parliament if all the votes around will be tabulated and turned into a percentage, and maybe they'll get even 3 or 4 in parliament, they will do so.
They'll do so. That's true.
So proportional representation, how it will help us is that, I mean, it's a bit of a mess. We know that in countries like Italy and Israel and all that, it can take a long time forming a government because you can have 30 different parties all winning small.
Exactly.
And so you have to do a lot of horse trading to form a government. But in our system, the presidency is already voted in a way in which every vote counts the same.
The same.
So that will be there.
Okay.
And so it is parliament
that will need their representations.
And my thinking and my proposal this evening would be that let us try this idea at the local government level.
Okay.
It is a travesty against our democracy that we are still pretending that the local government election is non-partisan. If you go across the country, the posters. People are so clever that
the posters.
You just see the color of the posters.
Exactly, and you know where the person belongs. Yeah.
And so, and yet, that is where really issues must define the parties, because at the local level, the people know what they need, and so it's a question about if you go around the country, around the world, you see that local elections tend to differ from national elections in the sense that whilst the national elections may be talking about big issues like foreign policy, industrial policy, and all of that, at the local level, we are talking about that particular road. We are talking about water going into this, and we are talking about education and roofing that building. And so, whilst people say, oh, that one we all know, no, if we use partisan, but we use proportional representation, we can experiment with this and see how it will generate enthusiasm for politics, how it will bring in diversity.
That's right.
And how we hear so many voices and in the end, it will translate into something meaningful.
Nana, I'm already getting messages from some of our viewers telling us that we need to have another bite on this topic. But some messages that have come through, I want to run through them so that we can. So this one is from Osei Bunsu Ato from Chindrasi. I know you will help me. Kwewu. Simply, there should be a law that will force successive governments to complete the projects of the previous government. I'm happy His Excellency John Mahama has pledged and committed himself to make sure he completes all abandoned projects. Good evening, boss. The project at hand now is the problem at hand now is the political parties are building party, but not nations. So they only think for themselves and their parties. The Ghana Constitution favor only politicians. Fireman is my name, watching you live from Ewutu Breku Central Region. We need independent presidential candidates so that both majority and minority can determine what is good for the country. Abu from Tamale. I'm George from Fosu. This policy must be reviewed because everything under this policy is based on the interests of the sitting government and sometimes its party members. Personally, I think it's worth considering revisions to the winner-take-all policy. While it does have its advantages, such as providing a clear outcome, it can also lead to a lack of representation for minority voices. Exploiting alternative systems that promote inclusivity and proportional representation could be beneficial. This winner-takes-all syndrome is destroying our society as a whole. It has entered into our workforce and workplaces, and because of this, we find it difficult to criticize in the workplace. I suggest something must be done. I'm Godson Adama from Tepa, Ashanti region. Good evening to you and your guests. The winner-takes-all system of governance should not be allowed to eat into our national fabric, especially political governance. Even though I don't subscribe to this culture, we must also not lose sight of the fact that it's about who you trust and can help you achieve your vision. Let's bring everyone on board in nation building. This is Sami from Ho. I'm Roland, speaking from Techiman, and I really like your topic for today. Why can't we review our constitution? I think the winner-takes-all politics shall never promote development in this country. My concern is when security personnel are recruited on political lines, it means we are not safe. Why? Because most people move into our security services not because they have passion for it, but because they see it as an opportunity. I find it difficult to criticize wrongdoing in the workplace because as soon as you object to an opinion, then they try to tag you of political party or a related issue. I want you to do more advocacy on all media platforms. Okay, you didn't bring your name. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. From the days of military governance to civilian governance, our politics have been driven along the lines of winner-takes-all syndrome. Okay, so Nana really talked about that. The winner-takes-all will continue because of the nature of our politics. And this is from Daniel Mensah from Kaswa. Good evening, Mr. Emmanuel Wilson. My name is Kunbate Solomon. Watching you live from Odoko. This system of governance called winner-takes-all is a complete enemy of the nation. Example is when technocrats are replaced by foot soldiers simply because their party is in power. Nana, these are some of the messages that has come. Now, I'm sure you want to respond to one or two of them, but the last one talked about something quite interesting. Why do we bring in politics to the level where we are supposed to have technocrats?
Yeah. I mean, you have already, you see, in your intro and with all the opinions of CDD,
yes,
and
IEA and the rest,
and the rest. It's clear that every analysis will show you that over a period of time, and you know, this is over a period of time, we are getting to a point where increasingly all public sector services, jobs and everything is become politicized. And that is what I'm calling the political culture.
Yeah.
That is a slightly different thing from the voting system. So first past the post or winner takes all launches a political culture. And we are deepening that culture by now it's got to a point where I know young people who come to me and say, oh, we want to do this or that. And so why don't you apply? They say to you simply that there's no point applying. Because unless you know somebody who is big or in a party So that one, we all have to ensure that we raise our voices, because you can change that. You can use proportional representation or whatever, but still there will be a government.
Benny.
Still there will be a government. And if that government wants to continue that culture, then not even proportional representation can stop it. So the point is that we have to look at a way of using our constitution probably to make some changes. So I don't see why certain positions must not be advertised through the public service system.
That's right.
Yeah. The administration of our local governance at the level of districts and all that, why should they all be appointed by the president, for example?
That's right.
I mean, what they are doing is overseeing development. And I think there was a time when we had like regional administrative officers and district and all that, and they were bureaucrats.
That's right.
I have not seen any study that has shown which works, but I think that on the whole, when they felt that they were being judged by their competence and output rather than by their loyalty, because what we have today is that at all levels, when everybody owes their position to the president, as it were, then it is eye service. You want the president to feel you are loyal. You want the president to hear that you are working in, in his interest and all the rest of it. So I think that this topic, as you rightly said, we have to continue.
We have to continue, Nana, because it's really interesting. And as I indicated, messages are coming in telling me that, and these are coming from the viewers, telling me that we really need to continue. I'm sure they are looking at the time and they're like, okay, we will not be able to exhaust this. So, Nana, unfortunately, this is where time will bring us. But I am promising our viewers that I'm sure our guest will look at his schedule again, and then at the next available opportunity, we are going to continue with this topic because it's really insightful, and I personally have learned a number of things that I didn't consider earlier on. Nana, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much. We've learned a lot, and I'm sure that in the subsequent or soon to have episode, one of the episodes, we'll continue with this.
We'll do that.
And then go practically into the proportional representation again and see how we can enforce it. Viewers, this is where time will allow us, as I always do, and you know, if I'm looking good, it's simply because of the one who is sponsoring my wardrobe. And that has to do with Dees Clothing. Dees Clothing, you can find Dees Clothing at Domi Pillar 2. You contact Dees Clothing on 050. Oh, I'm actually mentioning our contact line. Okay, so you contact Dees Clothing on 0244 999 113. The number again is 0244 999 113. Till we meet again next week. Remember that this coming Wednesday, this episode is going to be repeated on this same platform at 11 a.m. in the morning. And so till we meet next week, Monday, thank you for joining us. Let's still transform the future of this country. It's politics and beyond. Good night.